have everybody here. I'm going to call this meeting to order for September 14th, 2017. And if we could all just stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. So let's do some quick introductions. You want to start with Sue?
Hi, I'm Susan Levinson, and I represent the school board.
I'm Tony Dumas. I represent the selectmen.
Suzanne Eden.
Michael Keister.
Mishka Haddock.
Jen Byron.
Erin Masqua.
Carol Martin. Erin.
All right. And Dawn is with us as secretary, and Peter White is in the audience. So let's start with that real quick. Peter White has submitted an application to be on the committee for the budget committee. And so we would like to, Peter, if you would step forward and grab a seat in front of the mic there. And if anybody has any questions they would like to ask Peter, or Peter, if you want to tell us a little bit about yourself and why you want to be on the committee and that kind of thing.
Sure. My family's from Nottingham. I recently moved back a few years ago from Cape Cod, where I've been living, and I'm got involved with the ZBA and a bunch of citizen action groups, including the Nottingham Water Alliance. And I have a background in accounting and financial management. I used to teach it at New Hampshire College. I haven't worked with any government accounting agency or budget committee before, but I have done fund accounting and for nonprofits and small businesses. So, and I'd like to serve, and sounds like a place where I might be able to help.
It's great, thank you. Does anybody have any questions for Pete?
I was raised a Boy Scout. I'm very trustworthy. That's important in a budget committee.
Yeah.
Where is some of your accounting and finance experience from?
Well, I've done a lot with nonprofits over the years. I used to work for the New Hampshire Community Loan Fund, and I did a lot of work with financial packaging and there. I worked for a number of nonprofits. Right now I'm the treasurer for the New Hampshire Community Rights Network that works with the Nottingham Water Alliance, and I'm the treasurer for the New Hampshire Independent Voters, and I've done small business accounting for hotels, motels, my family business, Rocky Cove Cottages, my brother, White Electricians. I'm comfortable with numbers. Well, I'm gonna have to work my way into these. Might take a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Get to know them all.
All right. So I believe the process is to nominate and then.
Somebody just needs to make a motion to nominate Peter White for the budget committee, and take a vote or discussion and then vote.
I'll make the motion to nominate Peter White.
Okay.
Second.
And that's Carol, right?
Mhm. Any discussion regarding the position or regarding Peter?
Can you remind me how many vacancies we have? Is it just the one?
I think it's just the one.
Just the one, okay.
Yeah. And this is we were just going over this, it's an abbreviated position because it only goes until March. And then the position will be open again, so Peter will have to reapply, as will anyone else who's ending in 2018.
So the other woman that was elected in March, is that this
It's a man.
position?
Leslie?
Oh, okay. So,
Yeah.
It's Les, yeah.
Okay.
He did finally come in, so he was sworn out, and unfortunately is on the West Coast today, so.
Okay.
okay, so he is a part of the committee, just not here
He's just
tonight.
not here
Okay,
tonight.
so this is an additional vacancy. Okay, thank you. I just had lost track of where things were there.
So Peter, is this something you think you'd like to, once March comes around, to actually continue your role?
Yes, probably, as long as everybody's happy to have me. So.
It depends on how much you like it, too.
Well, I've got involved before now, but I didn't really have the time, but now I do, so.
All right. We call a vote. All those that are for Peter being on the committee, say aye, or raise your hand.
Ballot?
Nine in favor.
All in favor?
Thank you.
All right, Peter. As Dawn said, if you want to join us at the table, you can do that. You will not be able to vote until you get sworn in.
That's probably a good
But you
thing.
can certainly join us up here.
Sure what I would be voting on anyway.
Yeah.
You can vote, we just won't count it.
And then I will pass this around, and if everybody could put their John Hancock on that, that would be great. The next order of business would be general town updates. Tony, do you have anything for us?
I do. Actually, I'm getting my notes in order because we haven't met since, what, May?
Yeah.
Yeah. June.
June, yeah.
Yeah. So pertinent things, at least money-wise, since June. So, we're, John Fernald is retiring, and we're in the process of interviewing for his replacement, which will end up becoming, rather than having a road agent and a separate manager for the recycling center, we're turning the position into a public works director. And we've got it narrowed down to a couple of finalists, and I believe the select board is going to have an in-person, face-to-face with one of them on Monday afternoon, and there may be one other, but we're hoping to get that position actually filled in the next couple of weeks, to allow for, whatever time John has left, that they can work
When is he
together,
done?
transition. He's done second week of October, I think. Yeah. We still haven't decided what the salary for that position is going to be yet, because we're combining two positions into one. Obviously, there's going to be more duties and responsibilities involved. But also this person, there is going to need to be somebody, like a foreman or someone at the recycling center, and possibly another staffer at the road shed, to operate some of the equipment and stuff. So we're looking at balancing all those out. So we haven't made any decisions on those additional personnel yet, but we should have this new person, this public works director, hired in the next couple of weeks.
So you're essentially adding two more positions
No,
on top of the one that you filled for John?
We may, we're considering that.
Okay.
Because, we can't, the manager up at the recycling center retired also, so we're
Right.
short a person up there. So even though we're creating this public works director, they still need that body at the recycling center. And it may be a combination of part-time positions. We haven't gone down that road yet. We've been focused on the, filling the position for John's replacement. What else is going on? You remember at town meeting, the town voted to allow the town to engage in the contracts for solar power on the roof of the town hall and/or the fire department. I think did they both pass? Or one of them passed and one didn't?
I thought the fire department passed.
Fire department one
I
passed.
thought they both passed.
Did they?
I believe so. Okay.
So anyways, we are about to approve the first contract with Revision, the company. So there was some language in the contract that we had some reservations about, but we've,
Who was the contract with?
Revision is the name of the company. They've done a
They
number,
just did Barrington, or, not Barrington.
they've done a number of projects in the area, a lot of municipal projects. They seem
Didn't
to
they just
be,
do the fire department down there and just south of, in Brentwood?
yeah, and they also did the big
Oh.
field of solar panels in Durham that turned out to be like a third of it was actually in Lee. And Durham and Lee were able to, shake hands and agree to pursue it together, which is nice, because otherwise they would have had to take all that stuff down. But it was win-win for them. So these folks are experienced in what they do, so I'm you know, like I said, I had some reservations about some of the contract language too, but, it's relatively low risk, so I didn't have any problem with it. So I don't know that it's actually been signed yet, but we've directed, Chris to go ahead and, pursue that. Let me sign this here. Let's see. We are about to disperse some town-approved money to the Pawtuckaway Lake Association, you know, the milfoil mitigation that they do. They just put in a request, and we're gonna be approving that probably by our next meeting. We did have an unexpected expense this summer. It was a few $100s. Basically, somebody came to the recycling center and left some asbestos behind. So, and it made it all the way to the collection facility, and they found the asbestos. It was in our dumpster. They knew it was ours, so they packaged it up, wrapped it up, sent it back, and said, sorry, we're gonna do hazardous waste. So, with the company that takes our solid waste, you have to provide that stuff in units of so many metric tons for a flat rate. So whether you have a 6-ounce piece of asbestos or a dump truck full, it's the same rate up to that bulk amount. So, and it was significant. So we ended up contacting another hazardous waste provider, Clean Harbors. They're local. Actually, I've been familiar with them since my days working at Davidson Rubber. They do the small responses like that. So they were able to clean that up for us. And we got the bill for that. It was a few $100.
Have we figured out how to avoid that happening in the future?
You know, the only way to do that, somebody threw it in the construction waste bin. And really, you know, same thing with a swap shop.
Right.
And the bottle bin and everything. You gotta have somebody standing there watching to make sure somebody doesn't do that, and they just don't have the people.
They may not have
Well, the
even
scary
known.
part would be too, is whether that person, whoever threw it away, was even aware that that was asbestos.
Yeah.
Right, right, and we just don't know, because we don't, you know, we have a general timeline of when it happened, but we don't know exactly when or who, so. But yeah, I mean, it's a valid point. They may not have known it was asbestos. Could have just been somebody cleaning out their basement and said, you know.
Gone are the days when Alice was there. Does anyone remember Alice?
Yes.
Way back, yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah, so,
Even simple tiles like these on the floor used to be made out of asbestos,
yeah.
and people don't know that.
Well,
You know, so you're peeling them up out of an old house. There's no way of telling.
yeah.
Any video surveillance of the transfer station?
No, no. And, you know, there's no, I mean, could it be done? Yeah, but you'd have to put in some internet connectivity down there so that the footage could get back to a central recording point, like here at the police station, whatever. So, I mean, the expense in putting that in would probably be more expensive than just hiring another part-timer to stand out there and monitor the yard. But it's been hard finding people to work down there. And you may be aware, earlier this summer, we had to shut down the swap shop, because it was basically just a monstrosity and a safety hazard. People were dumping garbage in there. We found a case of old liquor in there. Just people, you know, people putting electronics.
That coming around, yeah.
Yeah.
Stuff they didn't want to pay to get rid of.
Stuff they didn't want to pay to dispose of. So, I mean, it was being abused. It was a mess. It was a safety hazard. So we're just going to shut it down for now. And, you know, we put out another call for volunteers to come forward. Hopefully some people will, because, you know, in any recycling program, you've got that reduce, reuse, recycle mantra, and the swap shop fulfills the reuse portion of that. So, I mean, it's an integral part of the recycling center, but, you know, without the personnel to watch it, and right now, there's just 2. And we had, you know, a full crew was 4, so.
Have you reached out maybe to the high school? I know they have senior projects, they have volunteer work, there's different things that they get credit for.
Yeah, that was actually an idea that I brought up, but, you have to have a local point of liaison You know, you need to have somebody that's the go-to person for the school to coordinate that whole program, you know, and getting firm commitment to the hours that would be needed by all those students, it's not guaranteed.
Yeah.
You know, or, you know, some kids would.
Sports,
Well, and there's some,
the sports schedules. for
Yeah,
them
yeah.
well, and there's some training and some education involved as well, so you can't just rotate through 40 kids. You need to have a consistent
Right.
person who knows what they're looking for and knows how to handle those situations. so.
Right. Right. And, you know, and then there's the whole, you know, the idea would be to have the students run it, manage it, but they still have to be supervised, you know, to make sure that they're aware of, oh, hey, see that box of asbestos tiles? You can't take that, you know? You know, and then there's, you know,
them. Machinery.
yeah, and then there's the risk to those students while they're on city property, and I thought that'd be a great idea, but it
The
just,
senior project to run the little recycling shed there.
Yeah.
The reuse shed.
yeah.
Why is it that the select board is looking for volunteers for that? Shouldn't that be a paid position?
Just to monitor the recycle, I mean,
That
the
can
swap
be-
shop?
That can be a significant portion of their day, but.
Couldn't they do something else and that would justify
Yeah.
being a paid position?
Well, the problem is finding people to take those positions.
If you
And
can't
that's
find
what
people
we've-
for pay, you're not gonna find them to volunteer either, are you?
Well, I mean, there've been a lot of people who've been vocal about the, you know, the need for the recycle center, and a lot of people have expressed an interest in helping run it and maintain it, but when it came time for those people to show up, nobody did, you know? I mean, that would be the kind of thing that I would see as a Band-Aid to keep the thing alive, to keep it from shutting down, but nobody came forward. And we're down to 2 employees, and they gotta run the machinery, and they're just spread too thin as it is. There just wasn't enough human work capacity left to keep that shed open and maintain the rest of the operation. So we just had to shut it down. Now, it's not a permanent move. I mean, we're hoping to open it up later this fall if we can get some people in there, or, you know, get some people to, you know, even if some community members just volunteered for Saturday mornings, you know, limited hours, but that would be enough, you know? Somebody to, you know, stand there and just say, yeah, that lamp is broken, throw it out, or no, that's good, put it in the shed, or no, that's electronics, you need to go, you know, pay for the sticker and put it in the electronics container.
I think the problem, though, that you run into is it's either, from what I can tell, and I'm there almost, you know, religiously every Saturday, is it's been shut down. It's been shut down for a long time, and still stuff is piling up outside. So if you do
Yeah.
a part-time swap shop, you're gonna find mounds of stuff
Right.
stacked in front of it, because
Right.
people are gonna be like, well, there's nobody here to maintain it.
And they're throwing all that stuff away at the end of the day
Oh, I'm
anyways.
sure.
Cause, I mean, what else can you do with it?
Right.
You know, so, you know, people are leaving stuff thinking that it's being reused, and it's not.
Right.
Whatever's not taken at the end of the day, they're just disposing of, which is disappointing, because, I mean, I use a swap shop a lot too. I even go in there picking through things, you know, for when I'm looking for stuff. But that's just the, you know, the state of the state right now.
I wonder if the Boy Scouts or Girl Scouts, or, you know, the Scouts might be interested in a project like that. I mean, it must be a swap shop merit badge or something they can come up with. So
There is a recycling badge, and I'm
Yeah.
certain that
that'd be a great project.
building a program around that would be good,
Saturday
and
morning.
if they would be up for that, and they approach the selectmen with that plan, it'd definitely be worth considering. Yeah, yeah. What else have I got? I had a few things. I think I covered most of them. And another thing we're gonna be looking at soon, is emergency lanes. We've had some requests for emergency lanes that we didn't approve because they didn't meet the legal requirement for designating an emergency lane. But now it's come to our attention in reviewing the others that quite a few in town don't meet the legal requirements. So we're gonna be reviewing those, and possibly using our authority as a board to de-designate some of these emergency lanes, because that's a significant expense to the town.
What are you referring to as far as emergency lanes?
This is where a non-town owned road is still maintained by the town for the purpose of like getting emergency vehicles through. So they plow it in the winter, they grade it in the summer, whatever, maybe do some brush cutting, whatever. One of the significant requirements is that the public benefit outweigh any potential private benefit, and quite a few of them are just, it's just somebody's camp road.
Right.
One of the requests that we had, it's not even legally marked a road, it's just a right of way, there's no road there. So you can't call it an emergency lane when there really no road exists. But there's a lot of roads in town in that situation. And one thing I've learned in this process, especially in going through the process of interviewing for John Fernald's replacement, is about, what it takes to take care of the roads in town. We've got 85 miles of roads, and about a third of them are dirt. And dirt roads cost several times more per mile than the paved roads do, because of the erosion, the wear and tear, and the more frequent maintenance. And all of these emergency lanes are just private dirt roads and driveways. And, and they're not engineered, so like you got boulders sticking out of the ground. And when you're driving a plow truck down a road and a plow blade hits that boulder, splits the blade, that's 5 or 6 hours in the shop where the guys are clamping it together and welding it. Instead of being out on the road doing their jobs, they're doing repairs. Right? So
we have a clear-cut idea of what roads now are being maintained like that? Are
Yeah, they're
really
all-
emergency lanes?
yeah, all the emergency lanes are documented, and the RSA is very specific about what can and cannot be an emergency lane. And
So we know we have some that really aren't falling into that.
yes, yeah.
There are like a lot of, they've got in the new book for the budgeting, it just came, we just went.
Yeah,
So right here, they
there was a
Detail.
section in the
They detail all the
32
RSAs, but the issue, I think, is that the fact that they have been maintained for so long, some of them were only recently designated, but some have been, I think,
For a long
maintained
time,
for so
right.
long that by action,
Grandfathered,
they've
sort
been,
of.
well, it'll be a conversation I'm sure you guys have
it'll
to
be,
have, but I mean, the
I'm sure
fact
it'll
that-
be a heated conversation.
Yeah.
Well, it's gonna be ongoing, and at some point, the board's gonna have to have a public hearing on it, because it's a significant issue, but the RSA does allow the board to rescind that status at any time, so, so it's within our authority to do that.
I'm just curious when the meeting is.
Yeah, no, yeah, there's,
Even for
Yeah.
businesses that are being,
Yeah.
yeah.
And you talk about roads like White's Grove Road, or you mean like smaller lanes?
No, I'm talking, most of them are like camp roads, from what I've seen. I mean, I've got some of the maps, but, and, with them highlighted. And a lot of them are just camp roads, and, there's, the ones I've looked at, there's no public benefit there. Like, for example, if if one of the town gravel pits was at the end of one of these roads, well, there's a public benefit because it benefits our, roads department to go down there and get gravel, for road repairs rather than buying it from an outside provider. That's the public benefit. But if it's just somebody's private road and they knew somebody and got an emergency lane designated, that's not right to put that expense on the town. So that's the kind of stuff we're gonna evaluate. And for some of these, for all I know, maybe there's somebody with a medical condition that lives at the end of that road, and it's, it was given on that basis.
Right.
We're gonna have to
Matter
take
of
a long,
reevaluating.
careful look at each and every one of them and seeing, do they fit the, does it fit the legal requirement or not?
Yep.
So yeah, there will be a public hearing on that at some point, and I'm sure it will be a packed room when that time comes. And I think the last thing I've got, we had we had a public hearing Monday, required public meetings about some money, that unexpected money we got from the state. So earlier this year, the state highway department found a surplus in their budget from whatever the past year or two. They decided to divvy it up among the towns using the same criteria that they do for, block grants for doing road construction. So Nottingham's share of this was $128,000.
Nice.
And the string that's attached to it was that you can't use it to backfill your budget. It can't go to reduce your tax rate. You have to use it for new construction that you couldn't otherwise afford to do in the current year. Right?
Of any particular project, or is that to be?
Any given road project.
Has to be a road project.
Yeah. So what we had our public hearing Monday, and what we decided to do with that was use that money to finish the Lakeview Road project, which was originally slated to be done in 2 phases. The part that's already done, and then the other piece of that loop that was gonna be done next summer. We're gonna get that done this fall. And the economy around that is that the same contract is available, they know what they're getting into, so, and, there's a lot of engineering challenges up there because of the terrain and everything. And, but it would be cheaper to stick with them and get it done this year than wait till next year, right? And start with a different contractor, and who knows, the price of oil might make asphalt more expensive next year, so on. So we decided to go ahead with that. That is gonna take about 90,000 of that, and we haven't decided on the rest of the money yet. It may be for additional small repair projects that may have been previously put off, but we're gonna get John's guidance on that. But that's gonna completely round out the Lakeview project rather than spreading it out over 2 years. So and then we won't have to go to the town to get that money appropriated in, come town meeting, because it'll be done.
Yeah.
So that is pretty much
That's great.
all I've got.
Thank you for that. General school updates.
Okay, I brought just the preliminary year-end financial statements, just so that you have something that you can review as we move along.
Yep.
The auditors were in September 4th through the 8th. They're finalizing things at this point. We still haven't had the audit completed on this, but you can at least get an idea of the unreserved fund balances and so forth as you go through this. And there are obviously some balances at the end of the year that you would probably have interest in, once you review it, getting some answers on. So we just wanted to get it in front of you. We anticipate the audit being completed in the October timeframe. We have created an audit committee, and we've been meeting. We're going to meet with them coming up here pretty soon. So I can bring back that information to you as well. We have undertaken with the School Administrators Association, using impact fees, a study of the school, just to get a feel for some of the things, programs that we feel are important, and just look at the school and see if it has the space available to provide some of those programs. And one of the things we're interested in, obviously, is full-day kindergarten, which we have discussed. At one point, we thought we would need a building for that, because we don't have any more space in the school for another classroom. However, enrollment this year for kindergarten was not high. It was lower than anticipated. And last year, I think we're gonna get our final enrollment numbers October 1st, but right now, preliminary numbers indicate the first grade class is about 41, and the incoming kindergarten class is 37. We also have some other smaller classes that are below 50 students. So we're thinking that it might be possible to utilize the 3 rooms that we currently have that are around 1,000 square feet for full-day kindergarten, and handle it that way. We may be able to put it in 2 rooms if we only have 37 students, 35 students, it may be able to be done in that manner as well. So we're looking again at our current space. We're wondering what the trends are going to be. Our district, out of the current SAU, continues to grow, you know, not by leaps and bounds, but we continue that slightly steady increase. I think we went from 511 to 525, and again, we'll get our final count this year, official count to report to the state by October 1st, so we can let you know then. We are significantly higher than the other two schools in the district. They're down around the 400s. So it's interesting because they had gone ahead and done building, they had done builds, and now their enrollment is declining. But for 16-17, Nottingham had 525, Northwood had 374, and Stratford had 407. And we were up slightly by 10 students, so we'll see what that trend looks like. But again, we're looking at the incoming classes appear to be smaller. I wouldn't say 2 years is a trend, but we're just looking at that. So some of the other things we would like to do in the school is to provide language, foreign world language, I should say. And we don't have really the facilities for that. So again, we're searching around for a room. And I think the board is still looking at science-related items. How are those science labs looking on the second floor? There are 2. How are they being utilized? What are we really doing with STEM? How do we look for those 21st century skills? So those are the types of things that I think should be very interesting to the community. We have a preliminary report. We anticipate getting a final report again in early October. We'd like to have a community forum and present that to people so they can ask their questions. What is it that you want your school to provide? What is it this community would like to see? And what can we do within our current space? And what might we need, if anything, moving forward? So that's what's happening there. As you probably know, the playground, we had our final round of $30,000 in the grounds improvement. We utilized that along with money from the PTA and money that was raised by Emily Buchanan initially when she was a 4th grader. And she was very instrumental in getting this project going. The students in the school have been really involved in it, as well as the student council and so forth, and they did surveys about what they'd like to see. So what you're going to see there is a new playground in the same footprint that we had, but with new items, I guess, for the kids to be on. We retained the swing sets, and we also took down trees and opened up a grassy area, so the kids are not playing on asphalt.
That's a huge positive, they love that.
Yeah, I think that's a wonderful thing, yeah. So we're gonna look at it again and maybe try to find some money to put some picnic tables in there, but I think the kids can play and run and not be falling down on tar. And so that to me is a really nice piece. So that's done. I think we have a lot going on. I think that we're trying to get a little bit earlier. We looked at a preliminary budget for the SAU at our last meeting. We're meeting again this month on the 25th, and we'll be looking at that budget. As you know, we split that 3 ways. However, Nottingham pays a higher percentage. I'm thinking it's going to be around 40%. I'm estimating. It's based on your valuation and your enrollment, so your town valuation. So we'll be getting those numbers at our next meeting. So that's pretty much it. If you have any questions.
Can I go back to, you said the 1st grade enrollment this year was in the 40s?
Last year, we had 40 students that came in for kindergarten. Sometimes you'll see an infusion of kids that went to public kindergarten, but they're residents of town. Okay. But we only are showing currently 41 on our enrollment report. Wow. So, but we have had some move-ins, and again, our official numbers, to be consistent, will be available October 1st, and that's what's reported to the state. So you can look year over year at the same time frame. I should also mention the buses. We are going to be putting out an RFP for our contract. It's coming up with Dale. So we are looking for a member of the budget committee to be on our transportation committee, which was pretty consistent with past practice. So we've been happy with Dale. I think overall they're about 15 drivers short, given all of the towns that they cover. We've had a smattering of information on it. SAU 16 area for student claims that they don't have any issues with acquiring drivers. Dale has instituted a policy of providing a bonus, and they've hired a recruiter. We are one driver short again going into this year, and we have been receiving the majority of that bus refunded to us. And that's, you'll see in the items that I handed out to you, there's a balance there of about 35,000 on that line. That's the reason. So we're gonna do our RFP. We don't typically get multiple parties interested, but we will be looking at doing that contract. And your question, again, I hope I answered it, 41.
Yep.
So we see 41 moving into grade 1, and we have roughly 37 at this time estimated, still estimating kindergarten.
Yeah. No, it sounded really low to me. Like, I'm thinking of the third grade class that my daughter just went through, I think it was 62. So it just seemed like it was significantly lower than.
In the past, we've had some spiked classes that I think were around 72.
Yeah.
We had a 5th grade class some years ago that just graduated high school. They were a class of 50, and they were a small class, and they were reduced to 2 classrooms until they hit 5th or 6th grade.
Yeah.
So we do have those spikes of around 66, 67 in grades 3 and 4.
Yeah. Okay.
The other quick piece is that the Smarter Balanced data is back. We have received preliminary data on that. We will be reporting it. There are a couple of ways to look at it. You can look at it, how did you do compared to the state? How did you do, compared to your cohorts? How did 3rd grade do last year, and now they're the 4th graders, and are we seeing growth? I like to look at it in terms of, this is kind of roughly what it looks like. There's 4 levels. And I like to dissect it and see how things are going. But basically, it's reading and it's math, and you have the levels. So levels 3 and 4 are proficient or above, and levels 2 and 1 are below proficient or substantially below proficient. We have done better in almost every case than the state. I'm kind of looking at the cohort data now myself and putting it in, but my first quick pass looked like most of the grades had improved. But in terms of our goals and in terms of our budgeting and our expectations, we do have a few pockets. For instance, just a couple of grades where maybe you've got 41% of the class, which seems significant to me, below that level 3. So those are the kinds of things that we want to fine tune. It's just reading and math, if you look at some of the
So in
grades.
both of those, it's 43.
Yeah. I mean, we've got some classes. What's good, I think, is that as the kids progress through the grades, the scores are getting better, which is showing some growth, which I'm really pleased to see. I mean, we had, in grade 7, 80% of the students in reading were proficient or above, 20% were levels 1 and 2. So that's good, but we still want to ensure that our RTI program is addressing that 20% and that we see that growth for all of these students. But this is what stuck out to me. When we get all this together, we can share this, and I'm sure you'll do your own metrics on it and come to your own thoughts and conclusions and have some questions on it, which we would appreciate hearing. But the state still hasn't provided all of their information. We see state data here that we can compare to. I don't know that our demographics necessarily, when you're looking at state data, you've got an awful lot of different demographics in there, and there are some things that other cities deal with that we don't. So, but they haven't ranked yet, and so we can't really see where we came in on the ranking yet. But this data is available. It's being put into a format, and we should be able to report that very soon.
Did I hear too, the backfield was irrigated?
Yes, we had a group that's willing to help out with that, and so the backfield is now getting irrigation. And if you recall, from the Marston conversations, we signed up to maintain those fields, not just for the school, but for the community at large, so we're really trying to ensure that we do that.
That's great.
Yep, so they,
I think strikers were involved or something.
yes, and so they came in and they said that they would do that. We've had, that's really wonderful. We've had a lot of support. We've had the landscaping support on the field, and there's a lot of support out there, which is a wonderful, wonderful thing. But yeah, so that's all gonna be irrigated now because it was kind of hard to manage out there.
Yeah, it's hard to grow grass
Little
out there.
distance, yeah.
That many kids running around on it.
Yep.
All right, thank you. The next order of business is the approval of minutes from June 20th, 17. I have not had a chance to go through them, so we'll take a few minutes to read through them and make note of any changes or corrections that need to be implemented.
Just a question on clarification on line 20. We'll review June 2016 financials at their next meeting.
2017.
Yep.
Yeah. Just going through this, Tony, any, regarding, the library and stuff, do we have a new?
I believe,
Director?
yes, I believe we do have a new library director.
Okay.
Don't ask me his name. But yeah, I believe that position's been filled.
I think it's a
Eh.
woman.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
It's a
it's
woman.
another part
It's
of
a
woman.
this
Okay.
library
Yeah.
that I took it.
I
Yeah.
don't remember.
I remember we discussed that previously, that, and also, I was reading about the ambulance, I don't know, I don't believe it's been delivered yet, but I can check on that. It takes a while to build these things. No, not yet? Okay.
Alright. Do I have a motion to accept the minutes as amended?
Are they amended?
Yeah,
like
just
it
the,
was
line 20
Oh, okay.
is the date, 2016, 2017.
Oh, okay.
I make the motion to accept the minutes from June 20th, 2017 as amended.
All those in favor?
You're right here.
Oh.
I don't have
Yeah.
them.
7 in favor.
7 in favor, 2 abstain.
Okay.
All right. Other business. We had a New Hampshire, the NHMA budget conference on Tuesday. Several of us attended that meeting, which is more of a 7-hour-long presentation. I thought if you haven't done it, it's worth doing it. There's a lot of information that they give out. I think we have a copy. Do you have a copy of the book?
I do, I brought one if you want to.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I have one at home too. I can bring it down and leave it here if anybody ever has any questions or is looking to find information on, what the responsibilities are of the budget committee and how, committees or towns are run, and the processes and procedures and so on. So it was a very long day, but definitely some good information that was gleaned from that. So I highly recommend that if you've never done it, to do it. Like I said, we'll have a copy of the book with Dawn here at the town, so you can take a peruse through it and see what the issues are and things. We had a couple of towns that presented sort of their best practices, if you will, and went through how they create their budgets and how they sort of try to communicate with the residents of the town. These were mostly much larger towns, so bigger staff, bigger everything. So obviously the details were much more pertinent to them. But it was interesting to see how differently they run. Did anybody else? As Susan was there.
Was it much
Rosalind
different from
Chapman was
last
there,
year?
and Peter was there. No, it was the same presenters, so it's the same attorneys for the New Hampshire, whatever it is, I don't even know the term. The attorneys that present, they're from the
Municipal.
New Hampshire
yes.
Municipal, okay. So yeah, it was the same group of people, and then a couple of extras that came in to present, their own town things, so.
I thought it was good, a lot of good information.
Yeah.
I think Portsmouth was there, and it is different when they're a city and they have a city council and, but they go through a lot of information, I think, about the
Mhm.
advisory boards versus this one's an official board and how it actually owns the budget, and so I thought it was really good information.
Yeah. And everybody sends in, they give you all these, index cards, so people send in all kinds of questions. There were lots of really good questions as to, different kinds of scenarios or situations that one would run into, or questions that people had with regards to how to resolve, issues and things like that. So there was a lot of that kind of stuff going on, which kind of brought it down. It's not just textbook stuff, and the attorneys are always pulling up past cases, so you get to find out who got slapped on the wrist and who didn't. It was interesting to hear some of those stories. So.
Yeah, their case law was interesting.
Yeah, and Peter joined us sort of ahead of the 8 ball before being sworn in, but we felt that it was a good opportunity for him to.
Good introduction.
Yeah.
Book is good nighttime reading. I strongly recommend it.
Yeah, absolutely. So.
Will they make the materials available online? I think the 2016 ones we had a link to. I didn't know if that was
I'll have
going
to
to be
look in the
available
book
for
and
this
see.
year.
I'm sure it is online. Most of all that stuff, all the RSAs and everything that we need to refer to, or that we're bound by and so on, are all online. So, I'll take a look through it and see what I can put on there and pass on to everybody. So.
There's one more session, September 26th. It is up in Bartlett, but if anybody wants to go, if you didn't go to Bedford, let me know ASAP and I'll get you registered.
And September 23rd, you said?
26th.
26th. So the foliage might be just right for that 2.5-hour drive up to Bretton Woods.
That's an evening session, isn't it?
It's a day session.
4:30 to,
9 to 4:30.
Oh, it's the same
Yeah, it's a
during
day
the day.
session. Yeah.
Okay.
Going to do it again. 27 hours.
I always went to Bartlett, I liked it up there.
Yeah. I did a couple of years ago. It was good timing.
Yeah, I went to the one up there 2 years ago, and it's beautiful up there. It is a long drive, but it's beautiful. So, all right, subcommittee assignments. We do have we need to confirm the appointment of Suzanne Eden, who volunteered to join the capital improvement committee. And how does that?
You would just do, I would have somebody motion.
Make a motion to have Suzanne Eden represent the budget committee on the capital improvement planning group. So would somebody like to make a motion?
Go ahead.
I'll make a motion. I move that we appoint Suzanne Eden to the Capital Improvements Committee for representing the budget committee.
Do I have a second? All those in favor?
Well, I assume I would abstain.
All right. The other one that we need a representative for is the Transportation Committee. Last year, it was Jackie Snow, and I think she moved on to the school board, right?
Actually, Jackie was the year before,
Yeah.
I did it last year,
Oh, okay.
when I was still.
What's the meeting schedule for the transportation committee?
We haven't determined it yet. They would get together and decide. When I was doing it, it was mostly in the evening. Kathy Brosnan is going to be the school board rep to it. I'm sorry. It shouldn't be that frequent, but I do think that it shouldn't be really that frequent. There may be a couple of meetings that are after we get that RFP out and we look at the contract. I think that that would probably be at least 1 or 2 meetings, I should think.
Isn't it more so early on than?
We really don't have a lot. I mean, for a few years we did because we were doing new bus routes and we had the Colt Brown and the high school issues and all of that. Right now, the bus routes are in place. So I think the primary thing with it this time will be to look at that contract. And, I think one of the things we're looking at too is just to be safe, to see what we can do around bonding, if there's anything around that we can do to secure things and ensure, because one of the other towns did have an issue. We don't anticipate that, but that's really not, we should do everything we can to be
Yeah, I think
conservative.
the big reworking was when Jackie was on it, where they were, like you said, redesigning all the routes and trying to make everything as efficient as possible and so on.
Yeah, I had
So, how many meetings did you have last year? Do you recall?
It was a handful, they were spaced a few weeks apart. It wasn't a burden.
Yeah, I think Lorraine did it last year. Jackie did it the year before, I had it the year before that, so. But this year, I think the contract, and one year we had Chet from the Budget Committee, and that was the year that the contract was, the current contract was done, and I worked with him. So I think that's the focus this year, is the contract. So people that are interested in contracts that have that skill set would probably be a good fit,
Okay.
if there's an interest in that.
Do we have any immediate volunteers?
I'll volunteer.
Carol? All right.
It's good.
Thank you for doing that.
Thank you.
I will.
And then you have on here default budget. We've never had a default budget committee, have we?
You used to.
Michael used to run it.
We used to back when we needed one,
Way back when? Before my time, everyone.
back when we had a school board that you had to watch a little more closely then. Not naming names.
I think it was a good learning tool. The first year that I was on the budget committee, just a budget committee rep, Barb Scannell and I trained with you, and we were on the committee, and we really learned how legally you're supposed to put a default together. That was before I was on the school board. I thought it was a good learning tool.
If you like, I could just put together a 15-minute presentation at a meeting
That would be
to
great.
cover all that for us.
I know the basic
good.
sort of, explanation of it, but, yeah, that would be very helpful, I think, if you could do that. So.
I think it was a good-
And it would help
Put it on
for
the schedule
everybody.
someplace. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll
I'd be happy
squeeze
to do
we'll
it that
squeeze you in, no, we'll find some time. So,
Give me a week to prepare.
Yeah. So that'll be great, because, typically the default budget is last year's budget minus X, Y, and Z, and then plus whatever bonds and contracts and things that are long-term, and that's how you come up with it, but again, it's all the details that go into that,
It's
so.
specific.
Yeah, there's a specific
It's specific,
statute.
but there are some areas where there's some discretion that may or may not be appropriate. It just works out that way.
Yep. And
Okay.
the default is the school board's responsible for creating that, whereas this committee is responsible for the operating budget. But we try to be pretty to the letter with that.
All right. So that'll be great. We'll figure out, you want a week or so to prepare for it, so we'll figure out a date and time to do that, and I'll get
Start
back to you
working on it
on
now.
that. And the other thing is we have the calendar that you all have in here. There's a couple of options or opportunities in here to move things around sort of as we need, and it gets pretty confusing because you're mixing the town budget with the school budget at the same time. But my understanding is that we have the opportunity for, is it the December 14th, Dawn? As far as bouncing dates around, it was moving the December 14th.
Just keep it all together.
Well, actually, it was moving the agenda, not the meeting.
touch anything.
Moving the agenda to the 21st.
Correct, so you could rotate.
Goes
So
within.
this original schedule was kind of designed with the idea that there was a little bit of repetition in the past, and whether or not you guys wanted to continue with 3 actual meetings to review each of the budgets. So before for the school, you would have your first draft, second draft, final draft.
He needs to hold those. They're all one. I'm
Those all
sorry.
go to.
Those a
That's
few,
all
Miss
one.
Scott.
Oh, they're all for me?
I printed those off for you so that you had the dates by statute for the traditional town meeting and the SB2 with a March meeting. So
Oh, I
they're
see,
all
it keeps
multiple
on going,
pages.
they're all in a
So I just didn't know if you'd
chronological
need
order.
those for
Gotcha.
reference tonight, so I was
Gotcha.
just trying to help you
I
out.
filled them in.
Okay.
They're built in.
They're built in, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, yes, Dawn did a lot of work on the front end of this, so we were able to back into the school budget or the school calendar and the town calendar in order to avoid us getting a budget 24 hours or less before our meeting and not having time to really review it. So here we have the opportunity, like I said, to move some of the agendas around so as to either, give us a week or even 2 weeks to review the budgets prior to actually having committee discussions and that kind of thing. So we can, we don't have to do that now, but we can certainly, you can all take a look at it and see if, if you feel that more time is needed in between receiving material and actually discussing it, then we can bounce the dates around.
So whether or not you guys decide to keep the meetings November 16th or November 30th, those were, when Mishka and I talked, there was kind of the idea that you guys don't really have opportunities where you, as a committee, get to sit down and talk about each of the budgets. Before, it's usually a presentation, you ask whatever questions are there, but then you're done. Sometimes questions are emailed to the school board or back to the town after the meetings, but do you really have that chance to talk amongst yourselves? So if you guys decide you want to keep those can stay. If you decide you don't need them, then they can come off. You've got some flexibility for the 2 meetings between December 14 and December 21. The school board put together their preliminary calendar of when they're going to be reviewing and putting their documents together. I think December 6th was your final.
I don't think we finalized anything. We wanted to see what this committee did first.
Yeah.
But I think the chair made the point that sometimes we have our meeting on Wednesday, you have your meeting on Thursday, we review the financials Wednesday. You don't get any real chance to look at things and think about them. And I understand that, because even myself, it's when you get home and you look through it that you really think, oh, what is that? So
Right.
I think it's a good idea to have that little space and a little time to ask questions, and we can go back and,
So I kind of built these dates
Around that.
around that
Mhm.
calendar, and I did kind of have the opportunity to talk to Marjorie a little bit.
yep,
That she would try to get the school board changes into the budget within the next 24 hours, so that I could get it out to the committee members, the Friday before, the week before the Thursday meeting.
right. One thing I'm gonna ask, I think, at our next meeting is if we can just get financial data every meeting during this cycle, so that we don't run into, oh, we haven't seen that yet, or we aren't prepared to discuss that, or whatever, because really, the board needs to be acknowledging and approving that budget, even in its draft state, so yeah, I think that was a good idea to do that, and we'll bring it up in our next meeting.
So the green and pink areas, of course, are those public hearing and the deliberative sessions. The deliberative session date will be set by the school board. And I think last year you guys did it on a Saturday?
No, I think we did it on a Friday.
night. Yeah. So I'll wait to hear from them on that one. And then, for the first, the school hearing, we'll need a snow date. I plugged one in, but it doesn't have to be Thursday, like I put them in. But they do have to fall between that January 9 and January 16 date. The hearing dates are the only dates that you don't have any
Leeway.
real compromise on.
Right.
They have to be within those 2 dates for both the school board and the town. And then, of course, at the bottom, you have your holidays. You have your kind of critical
Due dates.
deadlines for citizen petitions. When you file as a candidate, those of you whose terms are up. Take a look at those dates.
Make sure you don't run against each other. I mean, unless you really want to.
Who did that?
And of course, your elections, your town meeting dates, and when town reports will have to be due, so.
All right. Anybody have any questions or concerns regarding the calendar?
I just have a note, I will be away on December 21st, so I won't be able to make that one.
Okay.
And, I don't know for sure if I'll be away, but November 9th and 10th are both those school days.
Yeah.
One's parent-teacher conference and one's Veterans Day.
Yeah, the 9th is
So I don't know
conference
if
day.
people will be away the 9th, we might be.
That's November?
Yeah.
So Dawn, I assume the two meetings for the second draft town budget, the extra one for February 1st, it depends on how many department heads the committee wants to see.
Chris was thinking that maybe he could reduce the amount of speaking time that they, you know, because at that point, this is, you guys have already heard the town's overview of the entire budget. And then the department heads can maybe potentially come in, give you a quick rundown versus 15, 20 minutes, 30 minutes. And then you guys can ask questions. So there was a little bit up in that area of
Yeah.
how many, do you see them all, do you see some?
Right. And that's up to you folks who you want to see. Historically, we usually see the police chief, the fire chief. You may want to meet the new public works director this year, just to get a taste of his ideas, his vision, or see where he's at, you know. That's what I'm foreshadowing, that's what I'm anticipating, so.
Just like when center supervisors come in before, but it really is at this point, it has been for many years, that the town really has kind of set his budget. So Chris is gonna be the one most knowledgeable about that to answer questions.
Well, that's gonna be under the public works director, so yeah.
All right. And now we have a new library director, so.
And you may want to meet that person too, yeah.
Okay.
That's separate,
Great.
right? They're independent.
So where we are right now with the board members, what's the quorum number?
You're full, and it is now
9? That's what I was thinking, it was 9.
members and then the two reps.
Two reps.
So 6 will do it.
6, yeah, okay.
So is everybody good with the next meeting being October 19th?
I am.
Send out the invites.
Good, okay, as long as everybody's all right, I'll go ahead and, what I typically do to the new members is I add it to my Outlook calendar, and I send out a meeting invite. And then if you click yes, that's great, if you don't. A lot of times I still will poll a couple of days before the meeting, just to make sure, get a reminder. And then if you guys wanna take a look at this, we can decide on the 19th, any final dates. You can leave them as they are. We've got two, 16, November 16th, November 30th. But we can shift as we go along as we need to.
Yep.
And then for the final review with tax impact, there's a choice there, either of the 14th or January 4th, depending upon what this board would like.
One of the things that Michigan and I talked about was the fact that for the school, because your timeline is moved up, historically it has been this, you guys getting in 1 week their final review with the tax impact, and then the next week you're having a public hearing. So it, for you, it literally is
Repeat.
a repeat of that same presentation. And while it's a different purpose, where they're proposing that their budget is going to be finalized by December 6th, well before the January 9th start date of the hearing, you guys really would theoretically be able to have that final meeting with them, have an additional meeting to discuss any questions you might have, you know, with that, so you've got that flexibility.
I think December, that 6th, I don't think was, that might be a little too soon, because I think the board does want to have time to work with the administration, and I don't think we're going to be done with the SAU budget until probably November.
Well, who said it's done?
She may think it's done, but the SAU board has to approve it, and they have a lot of questions on it, and they've only seen it once at the last meeting, so done is a relative term. It started.
So I think
By
that,
whose standards?
so I think just from a committee perspective, and I think it's gonna be a little bit easier.
Yep.
For those of you who don't know, I am also now the school board secretary. Maybe you want
Isn't that delightful?
It is going to be much more helpful. I'm not gonna be sitting here looking at the school budget wondering, what are they talking about? I'm gonna have a lot of preliminaries, so it will help me out a lot here. So I'm hoping that we can kind of coordinate when you guys review your data, that it gives the budget committee that weekend.
In between, yeah.
Right.
Yep.
It's critical, because I know in the past few years, it's been tough trying to balance your schedule
Mm-hmm.
with what their deadlines are, and it hasn't always worked out.
Yeah, I agree. More time is better.
Good. All right. The last topic is roundtable. Does anybody have anything that they want to bring up or address?
Did we do a vice chair? I may have missed that.
Oh, no, we
The
didn't.
last one we tabled.
Good point.
Okay.
Yes, we tabled the vice chair position at the last meeting. And so, looking for nominations for a vice chair. And discussion around it.
I would nominate Michael for it. He's been on the
Second.
board.
I didn't even get a say on whether I was gonna be on the committee. It just drafted me.
Yeah.
You showed up to the meeting you were in.
So,
I don't know if other people are interested or not.
I would yield to anybody that would like to run against me. That's cool.
I appreciate your experience and your insight into different things and just kind of the historical data and information that you know and bring to the board.
She's saying you're old.
Is that the only thing you gleaned from that?
He does, he's a lot of experience, a lot of wide-reaching experience.
And when I was chair, I told you before, it took away the butterflies to know that I had you sitting there and I could ask you if I was stuck on something. So you're the right guy for the job.
I'll make up what I need to.
all right. Do you have any objections to being nominated?
Would it help if I did?
I don't want to put you in a position where, you know, or in a slot where you don't want to participate or.
I begged off of being chair and that worked out well. I'll be vice chair if you need me to.
All right. So all those in favor of Michael Keister being vice chair?
In favor.
Thank you, Michael. Any other topics, roundtable discussions?
Do we need to vote on Carol for the, I know we nominated Suzanne for the CIP committee, but I don't think we actually motioned and voted
Oh,
Carol for
Did I
transportation.
miss that?
You can.
My bad.
It's okay.
I just didn't know if that was a procedural thing.
Part of
Yes.
the thing with Suzanne was because she had volunteered before you actually had a committee meeting.
Oh, okay.
So you could have just said yes, but for a procedure, it is
For
helpful.
procedural purposes,
Yeah, just do it.
I move that the
Carol.
committee appoint Carol Martin as the chair of the transportation, excuse me, the budget committee representative to the transportation committee.
A second.
all those in favor?
Great. Thanks.
Thank you for that. All right. You want to go around? Anybody? Tony? You got anything
Yeah,
else?
just the only other thing I want to mention again, John Fernald's retiring, so is our recycling center man. I always forget his name. I feel awful. Huh? Don Sinfo. Yeah. We had a reception for John at the town shed a couple weeks ago. And one of the things the town did was that we're having a sign made, and we're dedicating one of the bridges in town as the official John Fernald Bridge.
That's nice.
That's the one on Deerfield Road.
Deerfield Flutter,
right?
yeah. And he was very humbled by it. You could tell his voice was cracking a bit. trying to hold back the tears while he's giving credit to all his guys for making him, you know, look good, you know, like a true leader does. But yeah, we've said repeatedly that we appreciate John's years of service and,
How many years?
30 odd, yeah. Talk about dedication. This guy would work nights, weekends on his own time. You know, the vehicle he drove around town was his own, that he purchased himself. But he went out, rain, snow, shine, blizzard, earthquakes, whatever, to make sure everything was right. That's just the kind of person he was. So it was a fitting tribute to name a bridge after him. So the sign wasn't ready in time for the reception, but he had the image of it printed out and framed, and yeah, he was pretty humbled by that. So
Very nice.
so again, we give our thanks to John and Dawn
Yeah.
for a job well done.
Yeah. Suzanne?
I just want to welcome Carol and Aaron to the Budget Committee. You have many years of enjoyment. Welcome.
I want to thank Don for a fabulous job on this schedule. There's a lot of really good information added to this that hasn't been there in other years. I think it's really useful. And I appreciate that. I also want to just give thanks to Anthony and to Susan for their complete reports on town and school.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna second, all the hard work that Don's done to, get us rolling here this year, so I really appreciate that. And, look forward to being able to work with everybody and move this, town forward, so.
Well said. I think I'm good.
I just want to thank you for the welcome, and I look forward to being a part of the committee. It is a learning experience for me being on a government committee like this, but I'm looking forward to it.
Same, I'm my first time serving on a committee like this, so appreciate the learning opportunity.
Appreciate the insight you got, Tony and Sue, bring from the other committees to here. The playground is fantastic. I know my 8th grader loves having a Chromebook. Their homework
Oh, the
on-
Chromebooks.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not using my work laptop.
Yeah, right, you're getting kicked off by the kids.
I want them ready for high school.
Now we
with
just
the-
fight for bandwidth, that's all.
It's fantastic, so thank you.
Good.
Yeah, Tony, if you can get us some better internet connectivity in town, that'd be great.
The problem is, we're right underneath the tower. It's like right
Yeah.
over us.
That's a problem with any monopoly situation. You get what you get, you know?
Yeah. All right, and last but not least,
Motion to adjourn.
I second.
all those in favor? Thank you all for coming tonight. Peter, thank you for joining us.
See you next time.